Oh hey, I'm Marc, an art teacher, a professional artist, and in today's video we'll be reviewing a tablet. But not only a tablet, we're talking about a pen display tablet and a computer all in one. This is the Kamvas 22 Studio. Let's check it out. Alright, so this is going to be my complete review of the Kamvas 22 Studio, which is a tablet computer by Huion. And basically what happened is that a couple of weeks ago Huion contacted me and they asked if I wanted to review the device. And I said, sure, why not add another one to the tablet collection. But so this one is going to be a little bit different. Of course, like I said, it's a computer and a graphic tablet fused into just one device. I've been using this for the last 3 weeks or so, pretty much daily. So I've tested a number of different painting softwares. I've also tested Zbrush to see if there was any potential for 3D with this. And to be honest, I've been pleasantly surprised. So I'm excited to share my review with you guys. But first, let's open up the box and see what's inside and what you get for your money. And then the rest of the review will be split in 2 parts. The first one will be looking at the actual computer inside this thing, and then we'll check out the actual tablet capabilities. How good does it feel to draw on this thing? And then we'll discuss who is this for and if it's worth the money. Here we go. So before we open the actual tablet here, this was an extra box that was included with a mouse and a keyboard, both wireless. So very nice addition, nice touch, because I didn't have any spare ones, so I wouldn't have been able to use the tablet at all without this. So nothing super fancy, just needed some batteries and ready to go. So in the first box here, we're going to have the power block, so it's the power supply for the computer, power cable, some screws for the mount, and then the pen holder with a bunch of nibs inside, and then the pen itself. Wow. So here we have the stand to hold this computer tablet. Looks, I'm not gonna lie, it looks a little bit flimsy. It doesn't look super high quality, but it's made out of metal for the most part. I just kind of wish it was black, you know, like the rest of the device. And then of course we get some miscellaneous documents, a little washcloth, and a smudge guard. Very nice addition. And then of course the entree, the tablet itself. So it looks very similar to a Kamvas 22, but I've been told by Huion that this is not the same as the tablet that they sell individually. This one apparently uses a custom panel. All right, and well, here we have it, the tablet itself. And as you can see here from the reflection, the glass surface definitely has a little bit of texture to it. So it's not a plastic film, it's an actual glass surface, which is very nice. So I'm a big fan of that. Very similar to, well, actually it's the same as the Wacom Cintiqs, in that it's not like a plastic film on top of a regular glass surface. Now quickly, if we look at the back of this thing here, so we're gonna have a bunch of ports. So not super, not super next gen, but we get some basic stuff here with enough USB ports to do the trick and allow us to plug in pretty much any peripheral that we would need to. But as you can see from the size of it, it's definitely not a portable device. This is a desktop device, and it's not meant to move around because it's pretty damn heavy. Let's just say it's portable-ish because there's only one cable connecting to the wall and that's it, which is definitely nice. But yeah, I won't be traveling with this. Let's just put it that way. And then, well, when you boot this up for the first time, we're going to be prompted to install Windows 10, of course. It is a computer after all. It takes a couple minutes and then there you go. You have a brand new computer pen display tablet technology. Now, let's take a look at this machine, see if it's any good. And so to test the computer itself, I loaded up my version of PC Mark 10 and then basically ran the the basic test to see where this computer stands. And so I'm sure for most of you this won't mean much, but here we can see that the CPU is a Core i5-8400. There's no dedicated video card, so instead we have an integrated graphic card. Not the best, and it's kind of a bummer that this can be upgraded, but it did not perform as badly as I thought it would. I will say though that you really should update your drivers as soon as you get this up and running. The integrated graphic cards drivers, I mean, because without it, things were very choppy. All went away as soon as it was updated. And then in my case, I have the model that has 16 gigs of RAM instead of 8. Those are the 2 options that you can get. And of course, I asked for that version because I wanted to try and do a little bit of 3D with this machine, and we'll see how that went a bit later. And in my case, I have the 240 gig SSD version with an extra 1 TB regular hard drive, plenty of space. Yeah, here just looking at the temperatures, stays pretty stable. The fan does make a little bit of a noise, especially when pushing the machine a bit more, like in Zbrush, a 3D software that is quite demanding, but it was never that bad that it bothered me. It just, yeah, it just gotta do its job and keep this thing from melting, which it did. And here we have the final score, so 3600. If we see a comparison here, you know, it's going to be below recent gaming and office laptops, which is really what it should be compared to, because it's, you know, it's a tiny computer and it certainly doesn't have the same kind of airflow and, you know, component space to compete with like a desktop machine or a workstation. But considering everything, this is not a bad score. You won't be gaming on this, but in the past 3 weeks that I've been playing with this little thing here, I really haven't found myself wanting or needing more power, except in Zbrush. But yeah, when it comes to the device itself, that's pretty much it. I think there's one more thing that I should point out, and it is the speakers are really, really bad. It's almost comical. So instead what I did is I just bought the separate soundbar for like 30 bucks, and now it's great. So let's move on to the actual tablet portion of this review, because that's probably what most of you want to hear about. As the name implies, this is a 22-inch tablet. It's only full HD, so 1080p. I will say that it feels a little bit outdated. You know, you can clearly see the pixels. Would have been fine if it was 16 inches, but at 22, yeah, it definitely would have been better with at least QHD. In terms of the colors, you get 120% sRGB gamut, which is pretty average, pretty comparable to the Kamvas 22 and most of the recent tablets that I've reviewed. So the colors out of the box, they look okay to me, at least. I didn't calibrate anything. It seemed good enough to me. Now, one thing that's really nice about this display here is that you have an etched glass surface that is bonded to the LCD panel. So very unlikely that this is going to scratch up over time, and the distance between the pen and the actual LCD panel is very, very minimal, like 2 millimeters, 1.5 millimeter. I don't know, but the distance feels negligible, and so very little parallax. Brush strokes are nice and smooth, there's no lag, and there were like no dead pixels, no dead spots or anything like that. Everything was working as it should. You can also see on the side of the tablet here, we have in total like 20 different express keys that you can configure, and then 2 little sliders for like to increase the brush size or something like that. You can set it to whatever you want. In my case, I set it to disabled because I use the keyboard for all my hotkeys. Now you might be wondering if this thing gets hot, because there is, after all, a computer slapped in the back, and while it does get a little warm towards the top, it's definitely not hot and certainly not uncomfortable. And I don't have it on film here, but the tablet stand offers a really good range of motion. So you can almost put it 90 degrees standing up and almost flat on the table. Although when you set it flat on the table, it's a little wobbly, so probably avoid that position. And like you saw in the unboxing, you saw me screw in the stand, but you could very well mount this on like an ergotron arm or something like that, and you would have yourself a pretty bow setup. But what about drawing? Well, when it comes to pressure sensitivity here and like the initial activation, everything felt awesome. So it's one of the better tablets that I've tried, you know, recently, that I've reviewed. There's no initial activation issue, so you can get right from the get-go like really, really fine lines and very clean strokes overall. I was quite impressed. Drawing a straight line in my case, I had no issue whatsoever. No waviness, no jiggliness, nothing, just straight. And of course, I'm not using any stroke stabilizer. That's illegal. But yeah, overall, a very, very pleasant experience when drawing, when painting. And the device had no problem, you know, handling everything I threw at it pretty much, in Photoshop at least. So I had a bunch of layers, and then this is a file that's about 6,000 pixel high, so decent size, but no lag whatsoever, which was not the same in Zbrush. So I did try Zbrush, and you know, to see, because it's often part of my workflow. So I installed Zbrush on the machine and played around a bit, and basically, you know, if you want to be safe, keep things at around 1 million active polygons, and you should be pretty happy. The model that I have here has around 7 million total, and you can see that it gets a little bit more choppy when I start to rotate everything when it's all visible. But yeah, that's actually not bad. So I was expecting this to be way worse, and I'm not sure exactly how much I can attribute this to the fact that I have the 16 gig version, 16 gigs of memory instead of the 8 gigs. But let's say I wanted like a quick character mock-up for painting, or if I'm sculpting a prop or a portrait, or basically anything under 10 million polygons, the lag is definitely tolerable. And I guess now is a good time to switch to the negatives about this device. And one of them is the drivers. For example, if you have multiple profiles on your Windows device, I wanted to have one for myself and one for my kids, but that does not work with their current drivers. So every time you switch between profiles, the drivers will completely crash. And it doesn't look like there's any way to reboot them. So you kind of have to just reboot the entire machine, which is not ideal. However, I did point this out to them and they said that they are working on a patch for the drivers. So hopefully this is going to be fixed soon. But when you're logged in as a single user, the drivers do behave. I just wish there was a way to restart them. Like you can easily restart Wacom drivers without having to reboot your entire machine. Maybe in a future update, Huion? But yeah, aside from that, my experience was very, very positive. But in continuing the cons or the negatives about the device, it's really going to be more about the format rather than the device itself. Very pleasant to draw on, but all these questions pop now. Well, what happens if you want a different, maybe like a better tablet, something that is 4K in the future? Or what if you want to upgrade your computer to something that's a little bit better? Well, you can't, right? Because it comes together. Or maybe what happens if the computer breaks and needs repairs? Or what if the display itself needs repairs? You have to ship your entire machine to get it repaired. And so while it can be something that's nice, the fact that it's a standalone machine, you don't need a big computer box next to it, only one cable, this is definitely something that you should keep in mind. Because then we can move on to the conclusion. Is this a good purchase? Should you buy this? And really, who is this for? So initially my thought was that this was something that would be great for, for people that maybe are younger and have no computer. Maybe they had like a family computer but not one themselves, and then they've looked at graphic tablets, maybe a Kamvas 22, and then realized that you would need a computer on top of that, and then it starts to add up quite a bit. Or maybe you have a really shitty laptop that can barely play solitaire. In that case, yeah, that might be a really nice upgrade. I was thinking also maybe schools might like that. Doesn't take too much space. Simpler for the IT guys. I was thinking this might also be good for people that know nothing about computers and certainly don't want to go through the trouble of finding a good laptop or a good desktop, getting all of that set up, and then on top of that, plugging in a different tablet. Basically, this sounds to me like convenience and simplicity at the cost of configurability and power overall. Now, of course, the price. Now, keeping in mind that this is a computer on top of being a pen display tablet. For the entry level, we're looking at around $1,200 US. So this is the version with 8 gigs of RAM and 120 gigs for the SSD. The version that I have here is slightly more expensive at $1,400 for double those stats, but everything else is the same. And well, yeah, it does, it starts to get a little bit pricey. And if you remove approximately $450 from the total, which is about the price of a Kamvas 22 series tablet, what you get essentially is a mini computer that costs $950 with keyboard and mouse included. Now, with that amount of money, would you be able to build yourself a pretty good desktop computer and then buy a Kamvas 22 tablet separately? Hell yeah, that's probably what I would do, which is why we come to the conclusion that this device here, the Kamvas Studio 22, is all about convenience. If you don't know much about computers, if you don't want to deal with that, and you just want something that take out of the box, you plug in and it just works, then well, this is it. The Kamvas Studio 22 is for you. So, final words on this device here. Well, I had a really hard time finding something that was a deal breaker because everything was kind of well done. Sure, there are some minor flaws, drivers, the fact that the resolution is not quite there for a device coming out in 2020, the crappy speakers, but I mean, none of that is that big of a deal. And the drawing part, the painting part, which is important, was really good. All right, so this is going to wrap up the review. I hope it was helpful. And well, if it was, you know what to do. Click that subscribe button. Do it, bro. That's it for me. I'll see you next.